On the other hand, Proverbs 10:22, the blessing of the Lord makes rich, and adds no sorrow with it. So why not? May I be smitten with it and never recover. So on the other hand, wealth can be good. All right, we're granting that. But the Bible does seem to be a little bit heavy on the criticism of wealth rather than on the condemnation and advocacy of wealth. Timothy has already received this from Paul. The love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs, including thinking that faith can be a means of profit. Some of the false teachers in Ephesus were getting, I don't know what kind of a paycheck from it, but they were gaining inappropriate profit from their preaching and teaching. So Paul has already warned against that. Proverbs, back to the Old Testament. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food that is needful for me, lest I be full and deny you and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and profane the name of my God. I don't know about you, but I have loved this scripture for many years. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't think I can be trusted with great wealth, frankly. So watch out for me if I ever get it. Say, John, you still worried about it? What are you doing with it? It's fair game for you to watch after me. Watch my back. And the Lord has not let me descend into a point where I've been unemployed. I've got way too much energy. I can do something. But I'd like to be in that sweet spot of I want to always be grateful for the blessings of God. Not, I don't have enough and cursing Him or having too much and then think that I've made it for myself. That does speak to me. The wisdom is accurate. Luke 18. Jesus talks about, this is from Jesus, the perils of wealth, how it can be distracting. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God. Man, I've read commentaries over the year about the eye of the needle being a place near Jerusalem. Difficult, got to unload everything and then put it back on there. You can still take it in there, you got to unload it. I think this is meant to be a metaphor for just how difficult it is, how distracting, how burdensome wealth can be. Okay? That's why I don't trust myself with it. And then Jesus also says, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. You know what I'm worried about right now? Dry rot in my trailer. I get this steal of a deal, this fixer-upper, and I fix the furnace, and I fix this, and I do that, and I redo and then it's like, man, what's going to break next? You have to worry about managing your stuff. Now, this happens to be a travel trailer stuff, but it could be my investments, my portfolio, my stocks and bonds, my mutuals, my precious metals, on and on it goes, my insurance policies. And then I want to check on their rating. How's the Dow doing? And this, and I could become obsessed with managing that and forget that God is the source of all good, the gift giver. So, if riches are uncertain and they're certainly distracting, Paul says, put your focus on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. It's kind of like this. If money was water, where does the water come from? The heavens. Where does the water cycle come from? Well, that's kind of like a physical design of the maker of the heavens and the earth. And if you knew the person who designed the water cycle and the system, then you'd know the source, the true source. And what does water do? It falls to the ground. It infiltrates the ground, nourishes the ground, the roots of the plants. It might run off in the surface, and then it accumulates and runs through rivers, lakes, and ponds, and then it evaporates and cycles back around. And if you were to look at wealth and riches in the same way as water, it's really designed to circulate. And a solid free market economy has currency flowing everywhere. Okay? Bummer. Your water pump goes out in your car. Guess what? One way to think of it is you're going to bless the mechanic who's got to feed his family as well. And if you think of it, I'm just circulating the money that comes from above. the resources that come from above, I'm circulating it. And, of course, you can choose an honest mechanic and bless him rather than a dishonest mechanic. But when you think of your resources as being circulating, they come from God, they bless your fellow man, then you don't have to worry about it. You can feel like you're part of a system that blesses others. You're a distributor. You're a distributor of monetary blessing, and it could be spiritual blessing. Pray for your mechanic, have a relationship with your mechanic, be in fellowship with your mechanic, etc. But rely on God. God is the source of all wealth. I love this. I went out when we were at the coast. I have fallen in love with landscape sketching. And when I was in college, I took 2 quarters of watercolor painting. And there's just something about sitting there and looking at a subject and trying to capture it. But you're taking in so much. And so this verse comes to me when I think of the treasures of God's creation. The earth is the Lord's. He owns it all. Now I want you to think of riches not as water, but of beauty. Lord, I'd love to have not wealth, but beauty. Oh my goodness. When I was at Harris Beach and hiked up to the little point there, Harris Butte, and the view down of the parking lot and those jagged rocks and a little bit of mist and that north breeze cutting down and causing little white caps, it was just breathtaking. And you look through got like the silhouette canopy of those evergreen trees. There were deer in the forest. I tell you what, I was rich. I was blessed. How many people were as rich as I was to have the health to walk up there and just look at that? I was rich, I am rich, because the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and the fullness thereof includes all economic activity, the exchange of goods and services. James 1:17, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation of shadow due to change. Now, can I get a nod? We know this. We know that God is the great provider and the great gift giver. He is the best resource, God himself. Then there's the warning. We see this in the Old Testament, Deuteronomy. Beware lest you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gotten me this wealth. It's me. You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth. And another one, Jeremiah. Let not the rich man boast in his riches, but let him who boasts boast in this, that he understands and knows me. And another one, keep your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have, for he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Do you see? You're not to worry about money because something greater than money is your provider and your provision, God himself. And he knows you and he loves you. Let's think about ourselves now. Let's think about you. Am I rich? Okay? You happen to live in probably the richest nation. Now, this is always changing, and because of political theater, somebody's always trying to say we are at a disadvantage and we need some help. We need the state to step in and do something for us. So there's that reality. But I have been to a few countries, and I'm inclined to agree that we have an incredibly high standard of living, just the comforts that we enjoy. There's no way like the American way. Well, how about in Oregon? If America's great, what about little podunk Oregon? Maybe we're struggling and the rest of the nation's doing fine. So this is where my research was a little bit fun. I haven't looked at this I don't know if I ever looked at this, but the Oregon family income median is $73,202. That's for a family of 3. Now, I want you to think about that. If you're above it or below it, wish you had that, starting to covet. By the way, that is a little bit less than the national median. We're not doing too bad in Oregon, by the way. 73,000. If you wanted to look at the distribution of, what about the classes? The upper class, and we tend to think, we're talking about the rich, so it's the upper class, and we might include the middle class because we're Americans. But certainly, Paul's not writing to the lower part. Well, let's just analyze this for a little bit. Nationally, 19% are in the upper class. That's nearly a fifth of Americans would be in the upper class, the wealthy class. And about half, a little bit more than half of us are in the middle class. And then a little bit less than a third are in the lower class. Those are just economic measures. So here we go. If you want a little bit more definition. Okay, by the standard of the, whatever my source is, Oregon, I think I have it cited later. But if you make over $350,000, you're rich. You need to be in a higher tax bracket because you get more than you need. Okay? $350,000, you are clearly rich in Oregon. You're in the upper class, but maybe you're not rich if you make over $125,000, family of three. Okay? I don't think I'm talking to anybody in this congregation that's in these categories yet. Middle class, I'm talking to you now. Okay? Between $42,000 and $125,000, family of three, then you would be in the middle class. Lots of us. 52% of us in the nation are middle class. Lower class would be below $42,000, and it depends on, just because we say lower class, lower income, it should be no judgment about the quality of who you are. Maybe you can't purchase as much. And then there is a poverty line, and that poverty line depends on the number of members in the household. So you'd be considered poor in Oregon if you had the same amount of money, but there were 8 people who were being provided for that amount. And then Oregon is attached a certain amount per member. I think it's around $12,000. The poverty line is $12,000 or $13,000 for an individual. All right, are you blessed? Do you find yourself there? Paul's writing to the rich. I think we all are rich here, frankly. There's a different kind of riches that I really want to segue into now. And oftentimes we just think of money. Money doesn't make us happy. It really doesn't. It doesn't purchase happiness. It purchases stuff